I'd like to show you why knowing your why is the start of your journey. Without a strong why, it can be so difficult to reach your maximum potential. My name is Dr. Jason Balara, and every week I meet with real estate investors and mindset specialists that are taking action in order to build a life according to their own terms. We will break down what drives successful people and allows them to achieve at such a high level. If you are a professional wanting to break through, or simply someone that wants to hear an inspiring story, the Know Your Why podcast is made for you. Hi everyone, I'm Jason Balara, and this is the Know Your Why podcast. Today I'm here with Carlos Salguero. Carlos is a professional real estate investor, has made it his mission to help others achieve success in the real estate industry. In 12 months, he went from being a novice investor to having over 1,000 multifamily doors under his belt. So extremely impressive. I'm going to stop there, Carlos, and first just say thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. Oh, you're muted.
Thank you, Jason. Appreciate the opportunity
to
be here with you and share with your audience a little bit about my journey and, you know, what I'm all about and just my mission to reach more people and help them create wealth with real estate.
Perfect. Well, let's start there. Let's start with your story, your background, your journey, and then we'll kind of dive in from there.
Yeah, perfect. So I am Carlos Salguero. I'm originally from Quito, Ecuador. I came to the U.S. at 17 years old. I was the first of my family ever to arrive to the U.S. I always say I didn't have any connections, no family, not much money other than about 6 months worth for my first semester in college. And my parents' dreams were to just, they sacrificed so much to give us a good education. They were not wealthy by any means. They're just a middle-class family in Ecuador. My dad actually was born incredibly poor, and he picked himself up and, self-educated himself, learned English, and then started a business at 4 years old. So I grew up in his business, and my mom helped him in the business. So I grew up around him doing deals and just watching him. He never sat us down and said, "Hey kids, this is what you have to do in business." I just watched him. And one big important thing for them is you guys need to go to the US because it's the land of the free. It's the land of opportunities where dreams come true. So we grew up believing that. I always said that my parents brainwashed us with that idea. So at 17, I said, "Hey, I'm going to go to the US. I'm going to go to college there." I applied to a college here in Colorado, in Pueblo, Colorado, small town south of Denver, and I got accepted. And we only had about 6 months worth for the expenses. So I came to the US, really worked hard to, make some money. And I worked at the school. I had like 3 jobs. I found a side gig by pitching the school printing materials. My dad had a printing company in Ecuador. So I started selling printing materials to the school to pay for my schooling. So I always say that part of my education was paid by the college, but not through a scholarship, by them paying me for stuff and me putting that money back into my tuition. So that was my journey in the beginning. I was there for 5 years, graduated with a couple degrees, business and engineering, and I went and worked for Hewlett Packard in California, in San Jose, California, for 5 years. I was there for 5 years. Started again with a free internship because they were not hiring engineers without experience. So I said, "Hey, you guys hiring for anything?" It says, "Yeah, interns. How much do you pay?" "Nothing." "All right, sign me up." So I started working there with no pay. They hired me a few months later, and I quickly went up the corporate ranks, and I ended up being engineering manager for North America laser printing, with a lot of people in my group that I was supervising, engineers. And, it was a great job. I was getting paid 6 figures a year, lots of benefits, travel, the whole nine. And then the dot-com bubble pops back in those days, early 2000s in Silicon Valley. All the startups go out of business. HP is $1 billion plus company already. So, doesn't go out of business, but starts shrinking. And I was told to fire 50 of my engineers. And that was tough.
Yeah.
That really hit me hard, dug me deep. And I was like, you know what? I'm not going to be put in a position again that I can't control the destiny and the finances of the business. So I had always had an entrepreneurial spirit, and I started a little side gig selling on eBay. And I became one of the top eBay sellers at the time, power seller right away. Replaced my income, left HP to sell out of my garage. Everybody told me I was crazy. Everybody told me, man, why are you leaving this job with the benefits, the travel, the luxuries? And I was like, guys, I just need something that I can build infinite, right? I can't be stuck by the corporate ceiling. So I left and, maxed out my credit cards, cashed out my 401k to do this. And I started buying merchandise, selling merchandise on eBay. I became really good at buying liquidation lots, selling them on eBay for a profit. And the business grew. I moved back to Colorado. My mom had moved to Colorado by then, moved into a room in her house, rented a room in a basement from her and the garage, and then hired her. She was my first employee, hired my stepdad, my second employee, and then hired my wife after we got married. That was my third employee. And, this little business just grew, moved into a bigger house, went to a little warehouse, bigger warehouse. And then eventually I needed to buy a warehouse because I didn't like to pay rent, expenses, insurance, taxes. I'm like, man, this guy's making good money from me. What if I just buy my own? So that's how I got into real estate and commercial real estate. I bought a 50,000 square feet warehouse 12 years ago here in Denver. And I was so scared, man. That was one of the scariest moves ever because I didn't know if I could support it. But, the little business, we moved it into the big monster warehouse. And you know what they say, you put a fish in a bigger fish pond and it grows. So I grew. And awesome. I got excited. I started a second business, which was a fulfillment business, because I started going to meetings and I started going to conferences, and they always said, hey, I hear you have a warehouse. Can we store product at your place? Can we ship you a few things for you to fulfill? And I was like, I didn't know how. So I figured it out, learned the business, the logistics, learned the business, the fulfillment, started a 3PL fulfillment company, and then eventually became a bigger than the e-commerce. So now I had two businesses. Then I started hearing a lot of my colleagues and customers, hey, we need marketing. We don't know how to market our products and our services. So I started a marketing agency on top of that, all complementary to the first business, right? And never at the same time. I wasn't doing three things at the same time. I just built the one thing, took it to multi-million-dollar status. Now that I had a team, it was in the hands of proper management, I would go and build the next, and so forth and so on, right? So over the course of 20 years, I built 4 multi-million-dollar businesses. I still own 3 of them. The fourth and the most successful one so far, I started a supplement business. We launched it on Amazon, and it just took off like a rocket. We did very specific things to promote it, market it. We hired an influencer that helped us greatly, but also we kind of caught the timing of when supplements became extremely popular on Amazon, and also COVID helped it, because when COVID hit, everybody was like nutrition, health, and e-commerce, right? They were buying stuff online at record rates. So that gave us a huge swing, and we went from 0 to 8 figures in 18 months and sold it for an 8-figure exit very shortly after that in 2020. So that's when I really started thinking, man, what do I do with all this liquid money that I have? And also, do I want to go back to the logistics? Do I want to go back to the e-commerce? And I look back at my investments and I realized that, the best investments I've made over time, don't take anything away from my businesses, but, business is pretty intense in terms of management and strategy. The best investments that grew without me being like 100% involved was my real estate, because I had bought a couple houses along the way. We had done a couple Airbnbs along the way, and we bought this big warehouse. And this big warehouse that I bought went from, $800,000 that I bought it for to $7.5 million worth in 12 years.
Wow.
So I was like, man, there's something here. What if I focus on real estate? What if I go all in on real estate? So that started the journey of me just obsessively going after real estate like I did the other businesses. And I saw that the returns on me going obsessively on this one business were so much greater than anything else. And I started buying bigger stuff and bigger stuff. And eventually I started buying multifamily units, 50 at a time, 100 at a time. So that's how, in less than 18 months, we are at 1,200 units right now. We're acquiring a beautiful $40 million asset right this moment that we close in March. And, it's really been an amazing journey. But people say, man, you've been in it only 2 years. I was like, no, I've been in it 22 years.
Yeah.
Because the businesses that I built before trained me for this thing. So it was a running start. So that's where I'm at right now, Jason.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, entrepreneur from day one, really. If you're selling printing services to the university, that's you're sort of thinking outside the box of most college students, well before most people. So I mean, it's really an amazing story, Carlos. And I love what you kind of wrapped it up there with that. It hasn't been 18 months. It's been 20 years. You've been working on this for basically your whole life, and building towards, sort of in building the businesses in tandem with growing a real estate portfolio is just, it's really very, very smart way to do it. So in terms of real estate, are you buying these yourself? They're your own portfolio, you're syndicating. How are you approaching it?
That's good question. So, when I first started, I had some liquidity. So I was like, I'm going to go buy it myself. Mm-hmm. So I started buying myself. I started buying small properties, fourplex, triplex. And I started realizing, man, I've done this big stuff in my e-commerce, in my logistics, and in my supplement business. How do I shortcut this? How do I go from being a complete small beginner to, going big right away? And I think that was the mindset that I had to change myself, that I started a lot of businesses along the way. I didn't acquire any businesses along the way. Those two are very separate things.
Yep.
And if I can give somebody advice about real estate today, is you want to acquire the biggest business that you can, which is the biggest property that you can possibly can, and stretch yourself. Because we're all going for the comfort zone, right? No matter who we are, we try to stick with what we know. We try to stick with what feels comfortable. And as soon as we feel stretched, we revert back, like a thermostat, revert back to that temperature, to that comfort zone. So I just had to get uncomfortable, Jason. So I went and started doing things that I couldn't do with my own money, that I couldn't do by myself, that I needed necessarily an expert on my wing, that I needed money from investors, until I started buying big multifamily. Last year, I had not ever raised one penny from investors throughout my business career. It's all bootstrap, my own money, my own credit. So I went and put a $20 million deal under contract, and I needed $6 million to close. And that stretched me, because now I had maybe about $1.5 million of my own money that I could put in this deal. But what about the rest? So I had to go and find it. I had to learn how to fundraise. I had to learn how to pitch a deal. I had to learn how to be good at, getting a good opportunity that will attract investor money. So I started with my own funds, and then I got myself comfortable enough that I couldn't do it with my own funds, and started putting things under contract that I couldn't do on my own. So it forced me to learn how to fundraise, how to syndicate, how to create opportunity for others. And I'm so thankful I did that, because one of the big missions that I have right now is I want to go acquire $1 billion in multifamily real estate in the next 5 years. I can't do that by myself. Mm-hmm. I need a team. I need investors. I need partners to help me get there. And now that I'm forced with that big, scary goal, it forces me every day to be outside of my comfort zone, to go just chip away at those beliefs, at those mindsets, at those limiting beliefs, to get past that and start doing that. So that's really how it kind of progressed. And now we're doing straight syndication. We're buying these big, beautiful assets like the one you see behind me. That's our latest acquisition. We have under contract and we're closing in March. And this deal requires $18.5 million of capital to close.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Stretches us.
It's I love that. I love, the idea of sort of getting outside the comfort zone. And it's true. I'm sure I know, a lot of the syndicators I know, it's like once they've been doing it for a number of years and they're like, oh yeah, we can raise $10 million. It starts to become this sort of easy thing. But in the beginning, it's a very challenging, and in my opinion, it's probably the hardest part of all of the acquisition process, is just being able to find a way to kind of, bring that money together, find investors. But sort of going back to what you said about the 20 years is yes, you just started in real estate, but each of these properties, and you said this, is a business, right? Each property, you're setting it up, you're running a business. So you know how to run business. Maybe you did, your business previously wasn't in multifamily real estate, but you know how to run a business. You built it from scratch. I mean, you have all of that track record, all of that experience that is going to help you. All of that past comes to help you in terms of, running these properties as businesses, but also it does establish you credibility and a track record. And it's like, you can go to investors and say, yes, maybe I'm a little bit new in the real estate game at this, particular asset class, but here's what I've done already, been doing it since college. Like I know what to do, I know how to put in the work and to create a business. So there's definitely, I find a lot of my guests come into real estate from a different career, a different path, but ultimately you can always take those past experiences, those past skill sets that you've developed, your past network, you can bring that with you and move into real estate, obviously in this example, but like into whatever, right? Don't think of starting over. You're sort of starting from experience. So I think it's an important thing for people that want to come in real estate, but think they don't know, God, I don't know anything. And it's like, well, you know things, you just may not know that one particular skill. And then you go out and, as you mentioned, you find partners that can maybe fill in the gaps as to where you're, you're less experienced.
Totally. And I'll make a point to what you're saying right now. So look, I think one of the things that I found is, as I started acquiring these multifamily properties that are businesses, right? Mm-hmm. They have employees, they have a P&L, they have expenses, income, they have contracts, they have leases, all these things. This is no different than me running a multi-million-dollar e-commerce company or logistics company, or my supplement business, where it's same, right? We had vendors, we had manufacturers to work with, we had customers, we had accounting, finance, all that stuff. So, it translates so perfectly. And I can tell you, it's a much simpler business than any of the other businesses I did.
Yeah.
It requires a lot less people. It's a lot less risk. And it's infinitely scalable, because once we have a team in place for a property, great property manager, great asset manager, our accounting team is common for all our portfolio. So I just need to build one accounting team instead of one per company. And now we can just add to the portfolio company after company with the systems and processes we've created with the one. And every time it gets easier. Every time it gets more streamlined. Every time it gets more efficient. And that's why we have now this big goal, is like, the sky's the limit. Right. Because I don't have to hire 300 people to run this $1 billion portfolio. Right? I probably need maybe 20 to run a $1 billion portfolio. Now, to run a $1 billion company, logistics company, I would need hundreds of people. So that's the beauty of it, right? So it's a much simpler business. And man, I love it because it's very predictable. I know exactly what my revenue is going to be for this year because I have already 12-month leases signed with tenants. Mm-hmm. I know what my upside is going to be, right? It's maybe a little bit of a slower moving business, but man, that security, that certainty gives you, a lot of peace of mind at night. So I can tell you, I am much more relaxed these days than in the last 20 years of my business career.
Yeah.
Because I know this property is just, they're like little trains, man. They go up the hill and they produce money every month, right? Every first of the month, we see the income and we see and our investors get their quarterly distributions, and it's like clockwork, right? Now, is there challenges? For sure, like in any business, right? But now that the systems are in place, man, our focus is on to you make sure these properties perform at their highest potential level. And man, it's fun. I'm having a lot of fun.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's a funny, I guess, point in that, you're saying this is easier, and yes, there are challenges, but running businesses at the level that you have, and then comparing that to, a real estate business where you're able to run it at a much leaner, employee level personnel, that it really is, it's all about perspective. It's like some people maybe haven't run a business before. They come into real estate and they're like, this is crazy. There's so many, moving parts and stuff. But for you, that makes total sense that it would be a simpler sort of, because each one is a business. They're a little bit different, but ultimately at the end of the day, you have buildings, you have tenants, and you have, the property management, and like those things go together, and you just kind of rinse and repeat, do that again. So if you've got those systems set up and the right people in place, it really does. It funny to think like that it actually gets probably easier as you build the portfolio. You have that, sort of train rolling, as you said.
And then now you have very capable people too, that they know what they're doing, right? And they know, how to do it right, use the systems right. Like we're developing some internal processes to asset manage our deals, and to have an asset manager in every property on top of the property manager. And man, that has been a strategy that has exploded the value of our properties.
Sure.
I have not heard anybody yet do that, right? I've talked to a ton of syndicators, a ton of real estate operators. They don't do it. I'm always planting one of my team members on site, especially in the first initial years of that business plan.
Mm-hmm.
So critical, because every day counts. And property managers, especially the ones that have a massive amount of business, you don't always necessarily get their top people on your property. So, I don't want to leave it in the hands of somebody else. Maybe call me a control freak, or call me, just whatever you want. But I kind of want to make sure that because I am investing alongside with my investors, I want to make sure that money is working, mm-hmm. and that it's producing the returns that we projected, and even more than that, right? Because the best feeling in the world, Jason, is when an investor was expecting like a 5% return, and I can pay him a 7 or a 10.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they're like, oh man, I'm so glad I invested with you.
Yeah.
Because, a great property with bad management can turn into a mediocre property, or even a bad property. Mm-hmm. A great property with a great management becomes an excellent investment.
Yeah, 100% agree. And you're right. I have not heard anybody talk about putting, asset manager on each property. And I imagine that the argument or the reason why people wouldn't do that, I think it's a great idea, but the reason is you've got to pay that person. So now you have additional payroll. But if you're looking at it on that, the point that you just made about, the managing these on a day-to-day and everyday matters, you're probably making their salary back without much trouble by being so on top of the operations of each property.
Oh, not only you're making it back, you're like multiplying money at that point. Because look, from an efficiency standpoint, making sure that every lead that comes in the door is treated with respect, that it's treated quickly, that they're responded to quickly, that it's followed up on, mm-hmm. that turns into a lease, a signed lease, right? And you give it back to people. I'll give you 3 quick examples. Like, people calling over the weekend, people calling in the evening, that they get a phone call within an hour unless they call like at 11 p.m. at night, right? But that they get a phone call back within an hour. Hey, thanks for calling. Do you want to come for a tour at the property?
Right.
When do you want to tour the unit? And not 4 or 5 days later when they might have already walked into another property and signed the lease, right? Speed. I always love to say money loves speed. And the quickest you respond, the quickest they go. And sometimes if you treat them right from the get-go, they might not go and even shop anywhere else. It's like, man, I like how they treat me here. Let's go. So that's one. Number two, from an expense containment standpoint, sometimes property managers don't want to go through the trouble if there's an issue that needs to be fixed to go through like 4, 5, 6, 7 vendors to get a quote. Mm-hmm. So they maybe call their buddy or 2 buddies and they say, hey, give me a quote. And those are typically inflated, right? They're not getting the best price. I guarantee you. Yeah. They're typically inflated. So the property is now bearing a lot more cost than it should. But you think about this thing over a year's time, your asset manager can make sure that the property manager is getting enough quotes and or getting involved himself or herself into that quoting process to say, you know what, I like this vendor the best, is giving us the best deal, or maybe not the best deal, but is going to get the job done quick because time is money. Yeah. So from that standpoint, that's, thousands upon thousands of dollars of contained expenses that you're paying for, and just paying attention to little things. You know what I mean? I've seen, as we've underwritten hundreds upon hundreds of properties, the biggest leaks in a property, aka a business, is in the financials. They have subscriptions that they're paying that they're not paying attention to. They are buying equipment that they don't need. They have too much payroll. They are doing marketing. Once the property is like 98% full, they're still paying exactly the same amount of marketing, even though they could cut back a large amount of that, right? So, there's so many opportunities once you're there. And another thing that I do is, my asset managers are looking at the property as owners. I mean, you walked into a business, Jason, where if they greeted you and they said hello to you, smiled at you, said, hey, how you doing? Can I help you with anything else? I hope you're having a great day. You almost immediately think, are you the owner? Right? Yeah. Yeah. Are you the owner? Because you get a very different treatment if an owner is behind the counter. Right? They want you back. They want your business. They want to wow you. An employee not necessarily is there to wow you, even though they should. An asset manager in my team puts the hat of the owner on, treats tenants like concierge service, treats vendors like concierge service, and creates an atmosphere where that's the bar. Excellence is the bar. So that when people come in contact with that, they're like, wow, man, these guys are different. I want to come back. And that creates incredible retention, incredible loyalty, referrals. Hey, man, you want to live here, man. They treat me like I'm the boss, they treat me like a king. These little details that you can do for tenants. I mean, I could write a book just on all these things. You know where I learned them? In my other businesses. Yeah. So now I'm applying them to the real estate and changing the game.
I love it. I mean, truly, I'm like, I want to put asset managers in each of my properties. That sounds like a great idea. I mean, it's, and I think that, sometimes people, that's why people become vertically integrated, right? They start to get, they're going to bring property management in-house. They're going to bring construction management in-house. But, it's, everybody needs to run it the way that they see fit. But I think that it makes so much sense that the money that you're going to either generate an additional revenue or save with your expense monitoring, like those are perfect examples of where you're going to, sort of account for that person's salary, and then treating everybody just like that because it is their home, right? Treating it like they're if your tenants have ownership, feel as though they have ownership in the property is going to be maintained better. You're going to spend less in, your turnover costs, all of that stuff. I mean, I think there's just so many sort of unseen or unspoken of benefits from doing it that way. I really think that's
Yeah.
a great idea. Carlos,
Untapped opportunities.
Yeah,
I see them,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like when you show up at a Four Seasons, a Ritz, an Omni, a 5-star hotel, their level of their level of courtesies changes a little bit, right?
Hmm. Yeah,
Now that is not that expensive to implement. Like that higher level of service is not 10 times more expensive.
right.
It's just a small fraction. It's just training at the end of the day. Many times, Jason, is common sense. And it's just thinking, how would I like to be treated when I show up or when I rent from a place, right? So if you put yourselves in the shoes of that tenant, it's like, how would that tenant like to be treated, right? Do we keep track of their birthday, right? So that we can send them a birthday card? Do we send them a Christmas card, a New Year's card? Do we leave them a chocolate by their door on Valentine's Day and say, hey, thank you for your business, happy Valentine's? Man, those little things go such a long way, because what you're doing is you're putting credits in the bank so that when something happens that you need to give them some bad news or increase the rent, or a leak happens or whatever happens, you can pull out of those credits, those goodwill credits, and say, hey man, I'm so sorry this happened, I'm gonna make sure this gets fixed. And they're not annoyed and alarmed, and they want to just give you hell for the one situation that happened, right? The situations are going to happen. You just have to make sure that along the way the good stuff overwhelms the bad.
Yeah, no, it's a perfect point. And yeah, that the credits in the bank, it even, you know, even probably just when it comes to paying rent, right? It's like when times get tight, people, so
Yeah.
what bills are they going to pay? Well, if they're happy where they're living and they're getting treated the way that they think, like then rent, sort of moves up on that priority
Yes.
scale. So where are you investing? What markets are you in?
I love Tennessee. This property behind me is in Tennessee. Beautiful Class A mixed use asset in Tennessee. One of the biggest draws to that area right now is close to Memphis, is Lakeland, Tennessee. There's a $5.6 billion port plant that is going in and already going vertical. They're going to bring 6,000 jobs. They're going to manufacture all the electric vehicles there. Their Ford Lightnings, their Broncos. And, it's almost like, wow, we found this deal, and I think we're buying it at a massive discount because of the demand that is going to be in the area in just in the next couple of years, right? So Tennessee, close to Nashville, Memphis, I like Knoxville, Chattanooga. Those markets are some of my favorite ones. I buy in Georgia. I have property in Georgia. I have property in Florida, and I have property in Texas. So that Sun Belt is very, very attractive to me. I'm also underwriting in Arkansas and North Carolina. So, around that area, landlord-friendly states. I like landlord-friendly states, obviously, as most of us investors.
Yeah.
And but that's kind of our buy box.
Awesome. Yeah, no, that property looks beautiful. Carlos, let me switch gears so I don't keep you all day, but I just want to get to ask you the questions that I ask every guest. The first one, of course, being based on the show being called Know Your Why. So what is your why? What drives you towards this success? You've already had tremendous amount of success through your business, and now in carrying over into real estate. What kind of keeps you going?
So, I get this question a lot because I have over the years, I've developed this mindset that when I attach to a goal, my brother calls it, man, you're like a horse with blinders, and you'll run until you die. Like you will die first before you give up, right? So what keeps me going really, to me, is number one, I just want to create a legacy for my family. I grew up in a home where I knew that my dad was extremely poor when he was a kid, when he was a teenager. He started barely his first business at 40 years old. I had the chance to start my very first business in my 20s. So I had a 20-year lead over my dad on that.
Yeah.
But for me, is like I wanna make sure that I do stuff that will be remembered, that will be written about, that my kids can be proud of, and also follow on that footsteps, right? That I can give them a knowledge, not only money, right, but knowledge, so that they can go do great things themselves. So, my family is my number one, my number one why. The people in my team and their families, and of course, now that I have investors that are trusting us with their hard-earned money in these properties, is them and their families. So the beautiful thing about what I'm doing right now is that allows me to invite people into the opportunity, and they become friends, they become investors, they become partners. Sometimes for a couple of years, sometimes for some of these investments are a 10-year run. So that's really my why. Is like, look, it's people. At the end of the day, my why is people. How many more people can I, in my lifetime, in the rest of the years that I have on this earth, impact via my education, because we teach people about multifamily real estate, my opportunities as an investor, that you can come in as an investor, or as the team grows, my team and you either partnering with me or becoming a part of the CS3 investments team to go help other people along the way.
Yeah, it's fantastic. It's fantastic. Next question. Tell us something about yourself that maybe isn't common knowledge. Special skill, a hobby, anything, just to let the listeners know you a little better.
Man, this one's a tough one. Well, I think a lot of people know that I love fitness, right? I'm a CrossFit junkie, and that is kind of well known. But I think maybe one thing that people don't know is that I'm an efficiency, obsessed with efficiency. So I try to really create processes, systems, and I'm not perfect at it by any means, but I try to create processes and systems that create accountability. So, for example, I'll give you my fitness example. I've always loved fitness, and I saw my fitness slipping in my 30s as I got married, had kids, and went down that route. And I knew that I needed to become accountable to somebody else. So going to the gym by myself wasn't enough, because the easiest person to not be accountable to is yourself. Yeah. Right? You're the most forgiving. You are the one that you can lie to the most. And at the end of the day, you need something external that keeps you accountable. Yeah. So I started in a CrossFit gym, and I decided 6 years ago when I started, I was like, look, I'm gonna check in. I'm not gonna even check those workouts, but all I'm gonna do is show up and become fully accountable to this coach for an hour a day. And sure enough, I started going, man. It was like, painful the first 2-3 months until my body got used to it, and my mind. It's not only your body, your mind. But eventually, it has been one of my biggest mind hacks, mental hacks today, because for an hour a day, I become fully accountable to somebody else that knows more than me about fitness, more than me about form in working out and all that stuff. And I just submit fully and completely. And I don't get mad when they correct me. And I don't try to do my own thing, but I just follow the lead. And that has been huge, man. That has helped me with getting better mentorships in my business. That has helped me with just leading my people better. That has helped me in so many ways, because at some point, guys, we got to admit, we're not the smartest people, right? We need to continually be learning and be a forever student. I'm a forever student. I always want to put myself in rooms where there's people that have done more than me, more successful than me, smarter than me, so that I can feel uncomfortable again and say, man, you know what? I got a lot of stuff to learn still.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I love that. And I'm 100% agree. You sort of reach that point in life where, like, if you were into athletics at a young age, it's just natural, you keep it. But then you reach that point in life where other things start to happen. Like you said, you get married, you have kids, work, business, whatever it is. And it's easy to get away from, sort of, you put your fitness and health on the back burner.
Yeah.
And I did it that's ultimately why I ended up, I got a trainer. Like the first time I got a trainer, it was like, it's not so much that I can't work out. It's just, if I make an appointment with someone, I'm not going to miss that appointment. So it's more of an accountability hack. And it's, there may be things where other things in life where people, you make in your relationships, you make a scheduled date night with your wife or whatever it is, you have scheduled playtime with kids, just things that there's some level of accountability to it. And I'm actually getting even more and more obsessed with those sorts of things in terms of scheduling and time blocking. It's the only way to get it all done and sort of still have a quality life.
Yeah, man, this world of ours distracts us at every opportunity, right? I mean, our phones, our devices, our computers, the media, the news, that everything's trying to grab our attention, right? So becoming a master of controlling your attention and focusing, not necessarily for long extended periods of time, but just focusing for like short bursts of time, the productivity that you get out of that is immense. And you advance a lot quicker to whatever goal you have: finance, relationships, your fitness, whatever you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely agree. When people hear this and they want to reach out to you, Carlos, what's the best way?
They can reach me through my Instagram. I am Carlos 10X. I'm on TikTok, same handle everywhere, guys. YouTube, I'm all over. That's one of the commitments I made about a year ago. Is like, guys, I need to start pushing hard on social media, become accountable to myself there as well. It's free, guys. It's free for people to use these platforms to build their business.
Yeah.
And most of us have some limiting beliefs about them. I had to overcome my limiting beliefs, right? But it's really a tool, such a tool to be known and to create credibility as well. So I would say, reach me out. Hey, if you're hearing this, watching this, send me a DM, right? Send me a DM. Let's engage. Let's connect. Ask me a question that you have about real estate, about money, about finance, about the why, about the mindset, whatever it is, right? I just want to get to know you, because I know there's people out there that need the information, but sometimes you guys watch a lot, consume a lot. You don't engage enough and participate.
Yeah, it's great. Final question for you. What piece of advice would you give to someone who is getting started? And you can take that, getting started in business, getting started in real estate, whichever direction you want to go. But what advice would you give them to get them going?
Work for free. Yeah. Go find somebody that is massively successful and ask that person, what can I do? Don't say what can I do to add value to you, man. You ask me that and I'm like, dude, I have no idea. What are you good at? Right? You have to introduce yourself. Say, my name is Carlos. I'm amazing at sales. Do you need help with sales? I'm amazing vacuuming the floor. Do you need help vacuuming your floors? Whatever it is, guys, get close to success, get proximity to success, especially for those guys out there, young guys getting started, guys. Invest time to go get close to somebody that has success and offer your service, your value, your superpower, whatever it is, at first at no charge. They're getting to know you. They need to see if you're legit, guys. The successful folks, guys, we have gone through thousands of people in our journey that told us, I'm good at this. We hired them and they were not good at it, or they didn't deliver on that promise. So we have a little bit of a callous when people tell us, oh yeah, I know how to do that. I'm the best salesman in the world. I am the best cold caller in the world. I'm the best this or that, right? We've heard that a lot. The only way for us to confirm, don't tell me, show me. And then in the process, you learn, man. When you bring that value and you actively participate, dude, those are my best guys today, guys. That's the people that I'm going to turn into millionaires, because they were willing. And you know why I'm telling you that? Because I did it.
Yeah.
I'm going to write a book called Working for Free Made Me a Millionaire. Don't steal the title, guys. If you guys are out there, don't steal the title.
Yeah, no stealing the title, but I'll read it. I'll read it when it comes
Yeah,
out. It's
because I can tell you, no less than 7 times in my life, I've worked for free, not necessarily for a week, 2 weeks, for extended periods of time, sometimes years, to put myself in a position where I develop so much trust in the group or the person or the company that investment of time and energy, 100x right after, when they started compensating you, when they gave you an opportunity to be part of the team, when they give you a partnership position to be part of the team.
Yeah. Be so good they can't ignore you. I
Oh
don't
my
remember
God.
I don't remember where that quote came from, but
So good,
it's such a good one. Be so good they can't ignore you. So
so good.
Carlos, thank you. This was awesome. Thank you for sharing your story. Really inspirational, and I think just a lot of take home messages here for people. So appreciate your time. Appreciate having you on. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jason. I see you're the best dad in the world, so I am too.
Right, exactly. At least as long as my kids think so, I'm good. And as long as I know that that's my goal, then I'm good. Yeah, no,
I love it,
it's
man.
great.
I love it. That's one of my favorite things in the whole world, to be a dad.
Yep.
To be a husband.
Number one job. Yeah,
That's
that's
right.
awesome.
That's right. And to give him a good example, man. If I do great things, if they see that and like, man, you know what? And I can tell you from my story, just to kind of send you guys off. I had an amazing dad that was very good at certain things. I took all the good things. I took some bad things too that I carried as habits, like not having a mentor, not partnering with people soon enough, not learning about how to leverage money. I took those things, but the good stuff that I took, like persistence, perseverance, fitness, mindset, man, those things have served me so much. So if we can do something for our children, man, be so good that they can't ignore you.
Yeah. So we're gonna have to remember who said that, so they're not just stealing their quote. But
That's right.
Yeah, it's great. Again, thank you so much, and to the folks listening, I'm sure you're gonna love this episode. So please rate, and review, so we can get more great guests like Carlos. Again, thank you very much, Carlos.
Thank you, Jason. Appreciate it, brother. Take care.
I'd like to show you why knowing your why is the start of your journey. Without a strong why, it can be so difficult to reach your maximum potential. My name is Dr. Jason Balara, and every week I meet with real estate investors and mindset specialists that are taking action in order to build a life according to their own terms. We will break down what drives successful people and allows them to achieve at such a high level. If you are a professional wanting to break through, or simply someone that wants to hear an inspiring story, the Know Your Why podcast is made for you.